Hey, this is Sean. It's the end of day 4 of my Oculus Quest game jam, and I'm going to show you a whole new idea, which comes back to a more magical sort of game. It's single player, so it should be easier to think about, like to design for a game jam. And I'll show you what I've got. So let's go straight in. Okay, so I've got a sword, and it's got 3 blobs. Now, this sword will be like a character which can eat blobs. All right. So this sword, you can consume 1 blob, and you can use that blob to create multiple strikes like that, and then you can hover over one of these pickups to replenish your sword. Okay, so you could also just like do a single trigger and it will just do like a gun, I guess. It's like a sword, but it fires projectiles. Um, and so I'll just show you more about how the sword works. You pull the trigger and you can do up to 5 strike elements in the direction that your sword is aimed at. Now that's really basic, and so next is I'll explain this one. This is just firing an enemy strike. So when a strike collides with the strike of the other team, they both get deleted. And then also when a strike collides with my blob, I lose a blob. And I've designed it so that that lost both of my blobs. Okay, so it's not perfect because that collision should only be removing 1 blob. But currently it's removing 2. I think it might be visual. So this sword is not just like a health bar. It's more like these are like physical things, and when one of them gets deleted, the others will rearrange to fill the gap. You just can't notice it right now because it's instant. But what really happened there is that strike removed that blob, and these 2 will rearrange to fill the 2 there. So what this is really doing, and I'm getting lots of blob pickups here, so I'll just do this because I'm getting a bit too many right here. They're just randomly spawning around me to keep my sword replenished, but there's too many right now. It's just random. And they don't expire at the moment. Okay, so now I can see. Okay, so that's a fake enemy, but that's really a real enemy strike. And so you could see that with alternative weapons, I could have a shield that is composed of blobs. So it could be 3 blob elements, and then I can block the strike with my shield, right? The shield could also have a unique strike, like when you pull the trigger, it sends out multiple waves, so that it could be used. The shield, if this was a shield, the trigger might actually send out multiple strike elements in one direction, sort of like that, which might be good for blocking. Okay, so next I'll describe the overall scenario. Portals open up around you, and that's where the enemies come from, and they move towards you, and the enemy goal is to attack this ring. This is like a special platform. It's like a fountain or like a shrine, and if the enemy manages to get close enough, what they will do, they will like attack this shrine. What they actually do is see that purple blob. He will like stop there and he will jump into the purple pool here, and that pool will get bigger and bigger, so that it's a really visual sort of objective. It's like a health bar, but going filling up with the enemies as they attack. On the other hand, if you are winning, that purple will shrink right down and it will start to fill with yellow. And then when this whole platform is full of yellow, that's when you win. So that's the objective idea. So the enemies, um, the idea with them is that the purple is their version of these blobs, right? That bright purple is their blob. So it's creating this consistent sort of like universe where there's these blobs that are used as weapons, right? So that's his shield. And so you could imagine that depending on the type of enemy, he may have shields all around him. And so I have to break down the shields one blob at a time before I can actually attack the dark purple minion. And so there would be all sorts of different enemies. There would be ones that can fly, big ones with multiple body parts, and also multiple blobs. And it'll be pretty cool to start building those in once the core loops are all once I'm sure the combat is fun. What I might do next is just a little bit of cleaning up on the logic behind all the blobs. I would probably also get the pool here working because that's probably pretty easy to do. And I'd also get the enemy here to fill the pool, but also not just continually run straight through me. Do they even die? Nope, he just keeps on going. So the world right now, it's just colorful. This game is going to be kind of cute. And so I just put some bright colors in. This is like a rock wall behind me, and there's just some trees. So the starting level is kind of like a forest. And I guess the first thing you pick up will be a sword, and later you might pick up a shield. Okay, so what else do I have to say? Okay, once I get a few more days in, I do have a whole aesthetic that I'm going for with this, and I have the game name ready, but I'm not ready to reveal the game name because I want to make sure that it's available and that this project will actually get completed because I want to tie it all together. It's all around this blob-based weapon. That's the whole idea, the IP that I'd like to build. I think it's going to be really cool in virtual reality, and this is the first game that's going to use it. So overall, it is a bit disappointing that the progress I made in the last 2 days on that kind of magical bending sport, I've scrapped it because it was just too much strange. I wrote in my notebook that whatever I do, it should be 70% familiar and 30% strange. And in a way, it's I need to eliminate the variables, you know? If I put too many variables into a game and it's not fun, it's just really hard to know what happened. But at least with this, a wave fighter with the core concept of there's blob, there's armor, there's enemies, and there's attacks. I think that's pretty easy to understand. And then the really novel things are around the way you use your weapon and the unique sort of health pool here. Cool. So pretty excited about it all. I want to keep it going now. This is what I'm going to go forward with. I don't see any reason to change the concept again. And it will have, if it has scoring, I guess it will be in, I don't know, I'll figure that out later. I don't really like that you can just pull the trigger on the sword. I need to delete. I need to stop it from um, activating on just a click. Instead, it needs to be a swipe. And they need to probably be closer together. But that's all adjustable. Something that you might notice here is that my blobs do not directly impact anything. Blobs are only affected by strikes. So that's not built in yet because generally you'll be attacking things at a distance. And that's also why these blobby guys, when they get to a certain point, they just jump in. You already lost it. I guess that they might like stop there and do some attacks, and then they'll like throw their blob at me, and then they'll jump in. And I'm going to keep the art style really like workable, so they may be just spheres. I mean, most of this game will be on like more about mechanics and mechanical content rather than art style. And as long as if I just put maybe an extra blob on the top, some pair of dot eyes on that thing, it may be enough to feel like that's a creature. Once I do the next step, which is just clean it up and finish off what I've got half finished, then I'll go to another design step and actually think about the next enemies and weapons that I'll put in, because the enemies and weapons, they've got to be developed together. There's no point putting in a shield if there's not really an enemy that it's designed for. And I'll dig up an old piece of paper I did because one day I was feeling really inspired and I went through all the Pokemon and just looked at the pictures of them and thought about what kind of enemy would you build from that? Like, what enemy ideas did I get from that Pokemon? So, for example, I look at the Pokemon Diglett, which I guess is like the mountain over there. Diglett, he pops out of the ground in 3 places, so that's pretty easy to think about. If I had a hammer, then the hammer would be the one that like maybe the Diglett the enemy would like go underground and fire from underground, but you'd never see the actual creature. And then so that's when you would have to summon your hammer and slam it out of the ground and then quickly slice it with the sword. That would be pretty cool. And then there's just so many others. Like I also looked at the enemies from Mario. And one of the enemies in Mario is the cactus, the 3 balls. And so an enemy idea for the cactus is like, well, maybe you have to start by knocking its head off, and then you have to knock the second head off, and then at the bottom one, can only eliminate the bottom one when it's the last one, kind of thing. You just there's just so many different options, so it's pretty cool. All right, and I've started to get a bit carried away with like abstracting things out, and because I'm like building teams into this thing, and there's only player and enemy. I'm like giving the enemy a full-on full-on weapon, so it uses the same class as the player weapon. But so far, I haven't built the enemy's weapons yet. They're just boxes, and the enemy uses strike just like I do. And also, these blobs are neutral blobs that collide and you can be collected. So like I've been abstracting out and reusing some things. It's slowing me down a bit, but I think it might be worth it in the end. Okay, so thanks for watching. This is day 4 finished, and this is the concept I'm doing. See ya.